You're listening to The Christy Clark Show on the Chorus Radio Network. Once again, here's Christy Clark.
Blake Bromley is an expert in charity law. He's been working in the field for decades. He's the principal at a law firm called Benefic Lawyers. Nice to have you back on the show, Blake.
Thank you very much.
Now, you wrote a piece that has been picked up by the Huffington Post. It's gone all over the world. And in it, you suggest that Warren Buffett, the third richest man in the world, who's pledged 85% of his personal fortune to charity, is going about it the wrong way.
What I suggested is that Warren Buffett and his good friend Bill Gates, who was sitting in the front row at the AGM down in Omaha, where I was last Saturday, should have a contest between themselves where they take $50 million and take one of Bill Gates' challenges of dealing with malaria, and have somebody try do it through the for-profit corporate route where you invested scientifically and professionally in the disease, much the way a pharmaceutical would, and what the results would be, and have Bill Gates do the same thing by giving it to research charities and whatever, and 5 or 10 years later track both the result they got and then, more importantly, what happened to the economic benefit of that result. Did the proceeds come back into charity, or were they commercialized, and did the research simply just sit on the shelf, as sometimes happens?
This all sounds pretty complicated, and I think where you're going with it, Blake, is you're going to suggest to me you think that if someone took the money, if Warren Buffett took the money and instead of just giving it to charities to manage for him and actually went and did it himself, he'd get better results.
I think if he gave the same attention to investing for social good through trying to achieve his charitable purpose as he pays attention to Berkshire Hathaway investments, I think he would get better results. And almost more importantly, at the end of the day, there would be new money coming in from how he did the investment to sustain further charitable and research activity.
So guys like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates can become the richest men in the world. They can go out and generate tons and tons and tons of money and jobs, and they can't figure out how to make charities work well?
Well, I think that the difficulty is that the skills in earning money are very different than the skills required to give money away usefully. Yeah. And John D. Rockefeller and others have made that point, that it's actually more difficult to give it away usefully. And so what I would like is that in addition to Warren Buffett's wealth, we got Warren Buffett's wisdom and his brains applied to the problems that society faces, not just him giving away the money he earned to someone else try to figure out the social problem.
And Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, guys like that, often, there's a Carnegie Library in just about every city all over North America. I'm exaggerating, but in many cities all over including Vancouver. It suggests he was a very hands-on philanthropist. The things that he was doing were things that he was doing, not somebody else was doing on his behalf.
Rockefeller and Carnegie were deeply intellectually and value-driven philanthropists during their lifetime. And as their fortune grew, they gave more and more away. That is vastly different than the model of building your fortune and then you get to the end of your life and you don't know what to do with it. So, well, I'll give it to philanthropy because, I don't want to just give it to the kids because it'll ruin them. But the Rockefellers and Carnegies, they were deeply committed to understanding the problems that they wanted to address. They understood that the problems would change over generations, and so they created the concept of private foundations. They didn't exist historically before those people because they realized if you gave money to tuberculosis or something else, that the cancer could come and you would need to redeploy that money to newer problems, which is what, foundations allow them to do.
And also, you give money to charity over a long period of time. Am I being cynical when I suggest that not every charity has an interest in necessarily solving all the problems? I mean, if you're dedicated to solving a problem, the last thing you want to do is solve it, because then you'll be out of work, right?
Well, one has to be politically correct in how you ask your question, but I mean, there is a case to be made that charities can become vested in continual failure.
Isn't that what we see in the downtown east side?
I worry that's what we see because people, in effect, brag about how many years they have been there addressing a problem instead of, being ashamed that this many decades later they're still there and the problem is effectively worse, not better.